So this episode is all about getting huge resolutions out of your images. Now, this could either be for somebody who has a small resolution image or a low-res camera that you're trying to get a little bit of extra resolution out of, or it's for somebody who has a decent resolution camera where now you're trying to make absolutely massive prints. Now, I have a way that I've been using for quite a while now, and it's a method that I've been doing for a few years now to make huge prints, and it's pretty easy, and I'm going to be showing you that right here in this episode. So this isn't some like magic Photoshop tip that I'm going to be able to teach you right here. It's actually a program, and it's a plugin for Adobe Photoshop, maybe Adobe Lightroom as well. I've only used it on Photoshop, but it's a program called Blow Up 3, and it's by a company called Alien Skin. Now, this is a very special program, and all it does is it focuses on taking your images and scaling them up to basically an unlimited resolution. Now, the way that this image processor works is, if you've ever heard of vector or vector files or how it even works, basically what this program is doing is it's identifying the lines, gradients in your images, and it is creating a vector file out of your high resolution or even low resolution images and allowing you to scale it along those vector lines or whatever you want to call them, and it can actually scale it to whatever size you want while still maintaining a decent amount of detail in the images. Now, this is great for even if you have like a low resolution image and you need a slightly higher resolution, or what I've been using it for is I have some images that are maybe 20 megapixels, and you can actually scale it up to like 100 megapixels plus, and it still looks pretty dang good. And I think for the most of the people out there that are unfamiliar with this program or don't really know what this program looks like, it kind of does a good job of kind of spoofing additional detail in the images, and I'm going to be showing you how it works right here, because I think this is incredibly important if you're ever interested or you think you might be interested in making high resolution prints. This is something that will be an important tool for you in the near future. So here's one of my all-time favorite images. This is obviously of the Manhattan Bridge looking towards the Empire State Building. This was taken from Brooklyn. Now, the reason I'm picking this image is because it's kind of got a good range of items in the picture. It's got, a nice smooth sky. It's got some cool textures down here in the bricks on the ground, and just like a lot of tiny details like in the wires up here. So I think this will be a good example of how well this program works at scaling an image up. Now, just to kind of show you how big this image is, I'm going to go to image size, and this is 4805 by 6785. And I've already got it worked out right here. This is a 32 megapixel image. So I'm going to be scaling this up by 200% on both sides. So times 4, because times 2 and times 2 is going to be adding 4 times the area. And so it'll end up being a 130 megapixel image. So 130 megapixels at 300 dpi is a fairly large image. I mean, you'll be able to print this fairly large after this program is done. So this is just a standard plugin for Adobe Photoshop, so I can access it right here through the filter tab, and it's just right down here at the bottom, Alien Skin Blow Up 3. And it'll pull up in a separate window. And before I kind of make any changes to this, what I am going to kind of highlight here is the crop and resize function, the resize and the stretch. And you can kind of see, if you hold your mouse over, it kind of shows you what these different functions do. This one says resize the image inside the crop rectangle to the output dimension. So basically what you can do is, like, if you wanted to crop this to a square, it would both crop it and resize it at the same time. So maybe, if you do want to make a crop to your image, it'll kind of save you a little bit of time instead of having to resize some additional pixels on the outside that might not be relevant to you. And then obviously the standard resize function, which works very similarly to the resizing function on Adobe Photoshop. And then you have the stretch function, which says stretch the image to fit the output dimensions. Now, that's not a function that I like to use. I don't really know the reason why you would use that function, but basically what that would do is you could either, squash or stretch this image to fit a very specific image size that you need. So what I'm going to be doing is going over the resize function here, and I'm going to zoom into 100%, and you can see the little split right here. On the left is what it looked like before, and on the right is after. So let's see, I'm gonna move it to right here, and you can see as I drag it around, it makes a few little changes, and you can kind of see already it kind of makes a little bit of a difference between the left and the right. But I'm gonna be doing a 200% increase on the width and 200% increase on the height, which will give it a grand total of 130 megapixels. So I'm going to zoom into 100% again, and I'm going to drag around right here. So you can already tell, look at, right here is the before, and here's the after. Now look at how precise those lines are right there. Now, keep in mind, you zoomed in, pixel peeping at 100%. Yeah, it kind of does look a little bit funky, but if you were to view this at like what a normal human would be seeing this at, oops, don't want to be showing the whole license plate. If you kind of see it from this perspective, it looks very, very good, especially if you're thinking of printing this. Nobody's going to be noticing this. I wonder what this would be resized to. So 9610. So just for your reference, if you print at 300 pixels per inch, which is the ideal print resolution, so 9610 divided by 300. So this would be printing at basically 32 inches wide at the ideal print resolution. So that'd be like basically a 32 by 50 inch image roughly. So at this resolution, it would be printing 50 inches wide, which is incredible coming from a T3i, which is what I shot this with. I shot this with a Canon T3i, and I did do a little bit of stitching. This was a multiple image stitch, but to make a 130 megapixel image from a entry-level DSLR is absolutely fantastic. Now, what I'm going to be going into right here is these features down at the bottom, which is kind of the adjustments that you can have within the program. And to do this, I'm actually going to zoom back into 100% just so I can see everything that's going on. Now, I think that looks a little bit too much, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drop down the sharpening edges and maybe bring down the sharpening radius a little bit just to make it look a little bit realistic. And then one of the coolest functions about this program is add grain. Now what add grain does is it adds a little bit of additional grain on top of the image, which kind of gives it a little bit of a natural look. And I'll show you what it looks like if you pump it all the way up. Notice right there in the shadows and then all the way down, it kind of makes it look like this image genuinely was shot at this size. So I think that looks pretty good. And just to kind of show you guys, there are other presets right here. So one is, if you're sharpening for the web, I don't think that would be too relevant for many people because I think your cameras are probably taking photos at a higher resolution than would be needed for web. But then you also have presets for matte paper, luster paper, glossy paper, and then also custom. I just prefer to choose custom and just set the settings as I wish. So just to kind of get this little show over with sooner rather than later, I'm just gonna press OK. And when I press OK, the program's gonna work its magic. And it might take a little bit, but it's totally worth the wait. So I am going to just press OK and see how long it takes. So it'll run and produce the ideal image size for me. Okay, so we have the completed image here, and I'm gonna kind of zoom out, and just to kind of prove to you guys that this is in fact the image size that we wanted, there you go, 9610 by 13,570. So I'm gonna do a 100% zoom in here, and I would say that that is pretty decent detail from a Canon T3i at 130 megapixels. So what I've done is I have the original image right here, and I'm going to blow this up to the same size as the other one, so 200. And let's see, preserve details. So this is going to be Photoshop's resizing algorithm, and it's going to resize to a whopping 130 megapixels, and I'm going to copy and paste the alien skin blow up 3 image directly on top of the Photoshop image, so we can see the differences in detail between the two programs. Okay, so here we have the alien skin blow up 3 layer on top of the layer for Adobe Photoshop. So this layer down here is what Adobe Photoshop completed, and the layer on top is what the alien skin blow up did. So I'm going to zoom into this portion of the image right here, and I'm actually going to zoom into 200% just so we can kind of see the details. So this is Photoshop. Now what I want you to look at specifically is some of the hard lines right here, and just maybe some of the I don't know, the lines right there as well. So if I turn this on, this is Alien Skin Blow Up 3. Now look at how precise these lines are right here. And I'm going to turn it off again. Photoshop, Alien Skin. Photoshop, Alien Skin. So what I want you guys to know is that this isn't, I mean, it's not just adjusting the contrast, because it really isn't doing that. It's all it's doing is keeping these sharp edges sharp. And what that's gonna help you guys do is when you actually print these images out, it's going to still make it seem like those sharp edges are in fact still sharp. Okay, so here is another great example of the differences between Photoshop and this program. So I want you again to specifically look at some of the edges right here, because that's where most of the detail is going to be visible. And you can kind of see, obviously zoomed into 200% and scaled up to 200%, that some of these lines are, you know, I wouldn't say they're ideally sharp, but if I show you alien skin, it is very, very sharp right here, especially along edges that have a decent amount of contrast. And especially like right here at this parking sign, I'll turn it off again. Very sharp, very, very sharp. Now, it's not going to be absolutely perfect, especially when you're zoomed into 200%. You're gonna be noticing, you know, a little bit of, I guess, issues with it. However, when you are printing this out, I can absolutely promise you this looks fantastic, and I'll actually show you an example in a minute of an actual print that I used this program on. So here we have an image that I actually used this program on, and it was part of a triptych. So it was 3 pieces, and each piece was 30 inches by 30 inches. So the final print size was 30 inches tall by 90 inches wide, which is a pretty massive print, especially when you're taking into account the fact that this was shot with a Canon T3i. So it was 90 inches wide with a Canon T3i. So, you know, you can obviously see it's got excellent detail, especially printed at 30 inches wide. And I used this same exact program to produce this image for me, and I still use it even with my Sony a7R, which is 36 megapixels. It works even better than it did with my Canon T3i, because I had I have larger images to send into it, so it's easier for it to produce huge resolution images, especially when you're talking 100+ megapixel images. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. This is a program that I use on every single print that I make. I use it to ensure that all the prints that I make are of the absolute highest quality. I make sure that they're all printed at 300 pixels per inch, and it hasn't failed me yet. And every single time I print massive prints, I am incredibly happy with the results. So I know this is on a little bit of the pricier side. It's like 99 bucks for the license for the program, but I promise you it is totally worth it. And they do have a trial, so if it's something you might like, or you think you might like, check out the trial. And I believe it's a fully functioning trial, so you can actually get some of your images fully blown up, and maybe make some test prints to make sure it's something that you're happy with. So if you guys did like this video, like, comment, subscribe, and also let me know down below if you have any ideas for additional videos. I do have one viewer request on the way, which I will maybe come out with either this week or next week. But like I said, I do come out with content every single week. So I would like to hear some of your suggestions for future videos. So once again, I do want to thank you guys for watching the entire video, and I will see you on the next one.